So finally going to do an install of Dan's GC Dual into an actual GameCube. This GameCube belongs to Corey of My Life in Gaming, and I promised him I would do the mod for him. And basically we're upgrading from an old, I believe, Pluto board installation. That's what it looks like to me. And it's I forget who come up with the 3D print design for mounting that. I can't remember if it was Collingall or it might have been Citrus3000. So I am completely new to the GameCube scene. I hope to be more familiar with it as time goes on, but I am definitely going to have to follow the install instructions for my first time, and this is my first time. Let's get to it. You know, I think Corey might be really interested in the component converter and better RGB out from the analog too through the kit. So that's one part I need to take care of when I take this apart, which taking it apart is fairly, there's just these 4 screws. You will need a long security bit. Let's see, this is a 4.5mm security bit. I get these from a video game museum. I've been through 4 or 5 sets of these. When I say set, there is also a 3.8 size, 3.8mm. I don't use it a lot, but that's for like Nintendo cartridges. Just a lot of this, I really think there's only just the 2 sizes, but these are superior. I will say that the Video Game Museum bits are superior. They don't wear out. Like I'll often put these in my cordless drill, and you know that tends to strip like the flutes on the bit after time, and that just, you know, the more stripped they are, the more likely they are to mess up whatever screw you're installing or removing. Okay, get those 4 screws out of the way. Top comes off. Controller panel. Ribbon cable just pulls out. Man, that looks like that's going to be fun to install. Looks like it's kind of been bent pretty hard. Reinstalling it, like maybe lie it flat and just push on the top. I think that's about the only way we can get in. It doesn't look like it's got a release on it. It doesn't look like that kind of cable connector. So, okay, yeah, the back panel just comes off from this install, no problem. So, they have mangled a bunch of the metal to get the Pluto board in here. Oh, you know, there's not as many wires over on this side as I thought there was going to be. That Pluto board is just surrounded by wiring holes. It's interesting. I have a couple of these that I never got around to installing. Looks like they've cut some plastic here too. So yeah, this was another part of it that I was really interested in. I have Greg Collins's fan that we are also going to be selling. But this is going to go into this console. The big thing is the volume of air movement and how quiet it is. Obviously, if your fan doesn't work at all, you want to replace it. This is the way to go, but there's, as Dan explained it, the footprint is a little weird on the factory fan. That doesn't look like, maybe he's maybe this isn't a factory fan. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it would have to be, but I kept envisioning a lot bigger motor, which I guess it's a little bit bigger, and much tinier fan blades. It didn't really seem that loud or that small to me. Kind of makes me curious if I can turn this on real quick and make that fan run. Okay, cool. I did find my GameCube AC adapter, DOL 002, 12 volt 3.25 amp output. This is something else I want to look into is cap kits for the AC adapter. Dan kind of thought maybe these were not serviceable, but with these two big screws on there, I don't see why it wouldn't be. He thought maybe they were potted or ultrasonic welded. Obviously you want to unplug this before doing... Oh yeah. Man, that looks a lot like the N64 power supply, doesn't it? Let's see, 2, 4, 5. I got about 5 electrolytic caps in here. Yes, we will definitely be selling a cap kit if that's the case. I need a bunch of these. Or if people want to send in pictures of their GameCube AC adapter, because we want to make sure we cover all the models possible. I mean, it would be great if they were all exactly the same as this, 5 caps, but likely not the case. I don't know if there's any kind of a date on it. Like these numbers right here, like that's a C1. That was usually the model that I was like finding on N64 power supplies. If those last, there was like usually just a letter or something. Like if it had an S, it was different than the K's. Like the S was very different, and I thought it was rare, but I ended up buying a bunch of them, and I had a bunch of S ones in there. What? 39 microfarad 35 volt? Are you kidding me? Okay. 10 microfarad 35, 680 16, 2200 16, and 200 200. That should be easy enough. So, put it back on right. The problem is, let's see, my laptop is running. I want to see if I can get the laptop fan quieted down here, so I might cut out for a second. Pretty loud. Honestly, that is noticeable. Of course, there's no other noise going on. It's not playing a game, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and install the new fan and try to make a comparison real quick. Looks like we'll have one screw, a fairly small screw. I don't even think a number 1 would get that. It might. This is a double aught. I'm not even sure I have a single 0 screwdriver. Okay. So we got 2 screws down here. That screw is loose. I didn't do that, did I? I don't think I did. Oh, it might be stripped. Obviously this thing's been apart before. Yeah, I think that one's completely stripped. That's too bad. Swap for those wires to go in. You can snake it back in place pretty easy. I'd say the hole alignment isn't quite perfect on this one, but I don't think it's off enough to cause a problem either. Yeah, it's completely stripped on this one. That's too bad. PCB fits nicely into place. Yeah. So this is a lot of wire to deal with. It's something we might have to address. I could seriously cut that much of it out, maybe more, because it's going to plug right here. They planned on shipping with these adapters in place. It's too bad there's not something to hold the adapter. Not for sure what to do with all of this. Might be able to hold it in place onto the side. There's a lot to deal with, but it can be done. I don't think there's anything up there to be in its way. Yeah, I'd say there's plenty of room to pack it in there. Okay, so plug it in again and power up. Yeah, it's quieter. I still hear it. Yeah, it's quieter. It would be really great if we could get these that lit up. I mean, it's got translucent plastic fan blades. I'm not sure they make this specific series, the ultra quiet whatever, in a lit up version, but we would actually be able to see it out the side through all of that. Okay, so the fan part's super easy, although I am really questioning. It's almost like if we had an adapter piece that was like maybe about twice as long, we could just butt splice it right into this thing, or into these wires, because I'm sure, you know, it's just black and red. We could just splice into black and red and leave the white, or just cut off the white flush at the fan. But yeah, this seems like a little bit too much wire to deal with. Just seems sloppy to leave all of that in there like that. And definitely have to deal with that at some point, but for now, move on with disassembly. Okay, to get the DVD drive out, take out these 4 screws, and these 6 screws. Sorry. Looks like we've had somebody in here with maybe a power tool, because I can see the heads on a few of these are already stripped looking. Okay, then I'll switch back to hopefully number 1 for these front 4. And lift out with the ground plates. And then the whole DVD drive pops off. And we can see the Pluto board. Ugh, What a nightmare. And so far all of the screws are pretty much the same size, length, you know, that held the power switch and the DVD drive in. It's just those front four are different. Okay, according to Dan's instructions, we are not removing, can't get to it. We are not removing that screw. And actually it looks like these are probably also number one. Okay, and then Dan says the motherboard's connected right here, so that's where we want to put most of the pressure for separating. Except I still got two screws in there, hidden by the Pluto board. Let's see. A couple more number ones. And these will not be reused. Such a simple piece. Very cool. Now I should be able to pop this loose. Feels like that screw is holding it down. What gives? Could be the fact that this has already been modded. I guess I say has not been GCDual modded. There we go. Yeah, I bet we cut that. Yeah, I almost know we do. We cut that in the install because I've just been watching his firmware update video, not the actual install instructions. Okay. So, just because I'm curious, about the capacitors down here. Oh yeah, we got 4 1000 microfarad. I'm guessing the 6A is 6 volts or the 24 is 24 volts. I would think it would be 24 volts since we're giving it 12 volts. But those look like 4 caps that I would like to replace. You know, and the power switch doesn't do anything besides give it 12 volts. So I could actually give her some juice and check voltage. Well, I have 5 volts there. And 1.2 there, 1.2, 3.4. So it looks like they are 6-volt rated, and being that small, that doesn't surprise me. So that's good to know. That will definitely be on the cap list, the cap kit. So we got quantity 4 microfarad 1000, voltage 6. I've seen some other bigger ones on the motherboard too. I mean, there's a couple 220s, you know, but if that stuff's just like video or whatnot, it's not nearly as important. You know, the heat pads look good. No hidden caps in there. Now I need to desolder the Pluto. I guess I'll do this off camera. Get these, get the Pluto undone. Dan, aka Citrus3000psi, sent me a replacement digital port, and I'm hoping that all goes back together and works, because I just have this feeling that somebody like Corey of My Life in Gaming would prefer to be able to possibly track down or borrow original component cables and do like side-by-side comparisons. So I wanted to get an original digital port put back in. Now the cleaning part is not necessary, but if you're doing mod work for money, you want your work to look clean, but also it really helps, like this is a 10 by eye loop, it really helps to go back in and look for shorts if it's clean, or look for spots that were not soldered well. Looks like I've got at least one here. I believe my solder is a no clean core, but I could be mistaken. I believe, yeah, this one's missing its label on the spool, so it's possible that I had a spare flux core, or a flux core. Yeah, they're all flux core, rosin core spool that I switched to and didn't realize it. So that's back in place. That's cool. Now, now that I think about it, I probably am going to end up desoldering again. I want to say on the instructions it says to desolder on those ports so that the QSB will lay flat. Yeah. I'm guessing I'm mostly gonna have to worry about the really big mounting pins on the sides. Seems to be what I'm rocking on the most right there. And Dan said to try to use a really fine tip. So I've got this one. Let's see, it's a 930 JBC model number. It looks like it'll fit down in there pretty well. Hoping that works out. Now that I really think about it, what I should have done was just replaced this entire motherboard and left the Pluto installed and just started fresh with something that already had the digital port still left on it. But whatever. We're here now. So he actually says desolder braid, and I haven't used my desolder braid in so long, I'm not even sure where it's at anymore, to try to level out. There it is. Super wick. 50 thou. Catalog number 424. And there's a layer of dust all over it. Yeah, this is MG Chemical stuff. And it's pretty basic stuff. You just lay it on the solder, add some heat, and it sucks it up. And it also gets really hot, so watch your fingers. I'm betting some flux would really help this situation. This is Voltar recommended flux, and I don't know where I got these little pipettes, but the flux comes in a giant bottle and I didn't want to be toting that around a whole bunch, so I poured it into some little bottle I had. Cut all the old used stuff off. That's what I don't like about it. It's very consumable, very expensive. That's why I go for the desolder gun. Put that cap back on in case I dump it. So yeah, it definitely feels like I'm still rocking on these two. When I look straight down right there between them, it really feels like it's over here on the digital side still holding me up really high. Well, that's about as far down as I want to take him, really. So I'm going to try to solder that down. Okay. Let's see if we can start filling in some of these. Right now, per Dan's instructions, we'll try to test continuity on the digital port. Looks like I've already got one that isn't making it. Oh, there it is. It's got a lot of flux up here to pierce. And you notice I'm rubbing back and forth down here because it doesn't really matter. As long as I know I have continuity, then we're okay. And then you do not want continuity from side to side, from one pin to the next. That will assure you that the swiping action that I was doing on the bottom was okay. Should be able to do the same on analog, right? If you get an initial beep, it's quite possible that you're just discharging some cap somewhere. Might even be a good idea to do top to bottom, but those two I know are ground anyway, so see. You just want to be sure that between the QSB and the main board you didn't bridge some connection. Like these are a little further apart, so probably okay, but they are really close side by side. And I push pretty hard to get through all of that flux junk. It seems like I've already skipped a step in Dan's instructions. Something about the taking care of the jumpers first. So I'm going to go back and reread that part to make sure, because there's already some jumpers made there and I'm not convinced that's the ones that I need. This is just going to be a normal setup, so the one that normally everybody would do anyway. Okay, so yes, that one jumper looks like between P and 5 is 99% of what users will use, and that is composite sync pin on the multi-out will be connected from GCvideo. So now we can put on the main board. So you want to line up the screw hole, but then also you want to clock it so the pads are right. And I also had a spare finger to hold that down, and then also if I had a couple pads pre-soldered. That is almost perfect. Well, that is just incredibly easy. Much easier than all those frickin' wires on the Pluto. Ugh. Yeah, I bet I just did exactly what all those wires were for, yep. Way easier. Kudos for that. Okay, what's next? Okay, again, he wants to check continuity between the pins. Probably a good idea. Cool, there was an extra pad on each side of that bridge. We can test continuity that way. I'm sure they go over to all these pins and pads and stuff, but it looks like a bit of a nightmare to try to trace out. Okay. And he says solder the support. That's all it says. Which is obviously to that capacitor. Just add a ton of solder to each. Press it down for a second and that should be it. Excellent. Next is to solder pad wire down to a little via over here. Looks like we're looking for where it says C55. above it and 2 pads over. That one right there. That's not super easy to see either, but I went to strip my wire that came with it. That's solid core, and I used these, which way too much pressure on it, just totally screwed it up. So I desoldered that blue wire that was on this side. I'll attempt to use that. Yeah, the hole in that thing is way too small. So add some solder to the top of it, hopefully. I think I tested that a little bit. That feels much better. Now, a simple step, attach the FFC. Easy enough. I need to go back a little bit because this was not the next step, but I need to reattach heat sink. I believe it would have been this one. And the supplied nut. We'll just plow ahead with the reinstalling all this stuff. So I need to cut some metal. Okay, while waiting for the furnace to turn back off again so I can shoot video, I noticed that what I believe is the door switch, one of the levers, actuators, whatever, must have got caught on something while moving around and broke the pivot pins on the side, so it won't quite work right. And I guess they both need to be closed for it to work, so I just bypassed the second one with a bridge right there just to get it going. I should have more GameCube consoles on the way, so I can just find like maybe a 101 or something to steal the switch from at some point, fix that. But hopefully that will get us going. And here's the removed metal done. So now we can actually start assembly. Huh. I got my screw the wrong hole. Needs to be... No, I cut the wrong one. What? Or did I just... Were we supposed to cut both of those? Or did I just really screw up? Yeah, I totally botched that one. The nut and screw was supposed to be here. I'm guessing, yeah, I might be able to slide that in there, actually. So the one closest to the caps, the electrolytic caps. I'm just going to try to let the nut slide down there by itself. May or may not work. Oof. It's already stuck on something. I'm going to do this off camera. Okay, that wasn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I just took a piece of Post-it note and kind of shoved it over there, and it kind of held itself in place and got the screw in. Phew. That feels right. Okay. I'll do it on this one. Something I like to do, and I repeat it often, is I like to get the screw in place and then move the screwdriver like you're loosening it until you hear it click, and then I actually like to start tightening the screw. Just like that. Especially when you're screwing into plastic, if you just cram it in there, you're liable to create new threads, and that will just weaken it. That's probably what happened to, I believe it was, that was one of these with the fan. Why it was stripped out. Okay, so I know. Yeah, this is my first time doing it, so I have to like check myself constantly. So it was the outside to mount the fan. Okay, now I've got 8 left. Oh, you know what? I didn't get the two in the bottom, did I? I totally missed those. But like I said, we're going to come back. I think those screws only held down the bottom shielding, and these screws are doing that anyway, so we'll pass on doing that. But I don't know if I'm supposed to put all four of these in. It looks like those two were holding the Pluto 3D printed support piece in, so I know those probably go in, but the outside two, I don't really have experience with it. I already forget how these are oriented, but it looks like you can only go in one way. Yep. Go back to the number one. But I think the fan can be put back on. But man, I really want to get rid of all of that excess wire. So I'm going to play with that first. I need to know is if I have any. I don't think I've got any butt connectors that are that small. While the heat shrink is pretty, it's not totally necessary. We're not using the white wire. And if I don't have butt splices, which I really can't think that I have any that small. It might be easiest to simply solder them. It'd be even better if we had some heat shrink. That's another thing that I really am lacking on. I can't think of any, at least no small heat shrink. I use larger heat shrink working on cars all the time. I could put some of this back over it, but again, without the heat shrink, it's just it's not gonna look that good. It seems like I can almost squeeze some of it down. I know I need that much of it. barely worked. And it's going to be a pain to work with like that, but you get the idea. I was going to worry it was going to be too much. Look at that mess. But still end up with a much nicer looking fan wiring job. Looks like you could have the wire come out the top. Wonder why he didn't. Maybe so he could spool up the extra over here. It almost looks like you could have it come right through there. And then you could just, you know what you could do? You could just have it come through there and just run the black and red to the bottom of that connector and solder them on. But then people who are just buying this to replace their fan might not be interested. I'm trying to make it a very user-friendly mod or upgrade. A lot of those people aren't going to want to pick up a soldering iron. Okay, fun part. Now we have to make this HDMI mini hole happen right in there. So, since that is even more difficult than a regular HDMI hole, I had Dan go ahead and send me his template. This is a 3D printed plastic piece. He has them in metal as well, so if you're doing a ton of these, we can get you one in metal. If you're just doing a few though, the 3D printed plastic piece will probably last you plenty long. Let's see. That does not line up, so I must be upside down. There we go. That's better. Yeah. It's a little loose left to right, but what I'm thinking is why don't we make that piece the same if it's flipped this way or that way? Could redo the design of that so that it doesn't matter which way it goes in, or put a big arrow right there on the top of it so you know that's the top and facing it, so it has to go in that way. That would be my suggestions. Let's see. Now I need to figure out what size drill goes in that piece. Okay, so I was going through my drill bits and I originally grabbed a number 40, fit in it pretty good, and then I looked at my drill chart and that's only 4 thousandths smaller than a 2.5 millimeter, which is what I assume it was originally intended to be. So that's what I've got. Those holes are really close together. So my bit wants to drift. Yeah. Maybe it's supposed to be a larger bit. If we kept going, we'd go to 39, 38, 37, 36, 764, which I don't have. must have broke that one a long time ago, but this 3D printed part is not enough material to hold the 2.5 perfectly. It looks like I can just damn near freehand a fourth hole. I don't know. I'm thinking it drifted up a little bit. If you're also new to my channel and don't know about these flush cutters, I highly recommend them. 170D Exolite. I've been through 3 or 4 pair. I've broken a pair trying to cut something way too hard for them. The only problem I see is sometimes they're not actually flush, like they're off by just a bit. So when they come together, you don't quite get a perfect. It's not perfectly flush, which can cause some problems when cutting. I'm trying to think of an example. I can't come up with nothing, but other for like stuff like this, they're absolutely perfect. And I do use a really small file set that I got from Walmart. I'm sure they're junk, but for filing plastic, they're pretty decent. And you just want to continuously check, look down through the hole, see where your metal is at. I definitely need to go side to side quite a bit and up a lot and only down a little bit. I don't know if these are painted, but the outside seems to chip pretty easily. Okay, wow, that was difficult, and yes, I believe these are painted, because I'm making scratch marks back here, and it's black underneath. So, trying to get it perfect around here, whoo, really, really hard. So, a couple tips and tricks. I really wish we had a template to mark that perfectly on the outside, though. It'll give you a better idea of where to file the hole down to. But you'll see me go in, like I had to really push this in, which is not a bad thing. But I'll go in from the front and I'll cut at an angle, and I'll cut off the back side. Basically what that does is it lessens the amount. You can come in from the back side on the top, but it's on the bottom and sides. Coming from the top at an angle, it lessens the amount of plastic that you have to file. Just a bit of a tip. So, like this outside edge doesn't need to be the full width of the plastic, okay? So you have an angle coming in from each side, and then just a very thin bit of plastic out here that you have to file down perfectly. You know, and this connector doesn't even come all the way through the plastic either, so you kind of want to try to get to where you can see all of the metal of the actual HDMI connector, though. But yeah, man, getting this perfect is really difficult. Makes me like the idea of having the big HDMI port on the Pluto board with a 3D printed holder right there, but Gotta have the dual. So yeah, now should be as easy as drilling that hole, which I'm guessing 2.5 millimeter is good enough. I'm guessing it doesn't matter how this screw and nut are actually mounted and put together. Although that kind of makes me think it'd be smart to have the cable plugged in first, but might be doable. And even Dan suggests attaching the FFC to this board before you screw it down. And it looks like he had the head on top, but I'm truly guessing that does not really matter. Yeah, it looks like orientation is like this, so blue is away from the connector, HDMI connector. That's about as tight as I dare. Ooh. That just fits in there, doesn't it? We got it though. You know, one thing I did want to do was change that LED. Just to something just a little bit different. And I honestly, for the black one, I'm just thinking white. Although, you know what, I might do a blue. And you'll see why here in a minute. So for the LEDs, the cathode is your negative, which will go over here to the resistor. Since we know the right pin right there is 5 volts, and you can see negative right there. Usually your ground plane's negative, usually. And I did test from here to here, so I know 5 volt there, negative there. And cathode will be on your negative. I always think cats are short and negative. That's just how I remember. Pop that one out. I was thinking maybe that'd be easy to pop through. Now we could try to point that LED up like it was. Okay, before I put the top shell on, this is my last surprise for Corey. Why was that stuck? So anyway, I have been selling new GameCube jewels. One of the more popular ones is just a kind of a logo remake. It's kind of similar to the original one. The original jewels get scratched up pretty easy. And honestly, that's a lot of shininess for just that little bit of logo. Kind of lame. So anyway, Paul has made me a custom one just for Corey. And I'm sure you can guess what it's going to be. Look at that. And it's got looks like some air pockets in there. Looks like a little bit between the artwork. You can kind of see it. Kind of looks like smudges, but it's between the plexiglass and the artwork. And these are custom one-offs. And since there's two My Life in Gaming guys, I had two of them made. So if Tri wants one for his GameCube, we've got a second one. And I can kind of see a couple more smudges, a little bit less, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one. Now, as far as I know, this just pops out like so. Ooh, fancy. And then, perfect time to clean this out. Huh. Is that supposed to be some kind of anti-piracy device? It's very similar to the Famicom disk system. The little grooves fit into those. Is it to keep it from being... How you would install that any differently, I don't know. So Paul's just got a little double-sided sticky tape piece. So of course you want that area right there as clean as possible. And then you just push down. Beautiful. I'm a bit disappointed in the air, but I think that's, these are custom, so you just have to live with it. And one thing that we will look at in the future is possibly somehow illuminating these jewels. I'm a little bit worried on how we're going to be able to do that. Like we have, there's plenty of ways to do it, but like how to run wire, power and ground to it and all that kind of stuff too. Yeah, that looks really nice. I might as well also clean the laser lens. Just a quick little scrub down. Try to remember to not crush this ribbon cable. Am I rocking on my, yeah. My wire was in the way. I'm really liking the idea of orienting this fan so we can just solder the wires directly to that connector. I'm going to have to deal with this part of it. I need this to stick down there in place just long enough to get this on. Perfect. So I was wrong about the fan. There is a bit of a screen for the intake side. I thought this was the fan side. I was wrong. But what I am seeing is the grating on this side is massively dirty. And the rest of it could use a wash. So before I completely button it up, I'm going to go ahead and clean at least the top side. Alright, so this is clean now. I kept wondering maybe if I didn't break that or it got broken trying to install the top with the lid down, because it's just this flap, and if it's down all the way, maybe it pushes right down on top of that actuator. So I'm going to install it with the lid up. Okay, we are ready for testing, and I just happen to have a mini HDMI set up here, so power. Ooh. That is way more purple than I was expecting. That looks really nice. I'm not sure if it's coming out on camera. And I have HDMI output on my monitor, which I can't show you at the moment, but this is just testing to make sure I got video output. Dan's troubleshooting pretty much says, if you got video, you're good. So I'll move to the other TV and put in a game, etc. Okay, so I'm up and running. Analog audio. HDMI digital audio. And the only GameCube controller I could find is the world's crappiest controller. By the way, this is the first time I've ever played a GameCube game in my life. So, I've never played this game, so I thought the audio was all messed up, but I guess that's just how it is. This is just composite video. I seem to be having a problem with the RGB video. I've got two screens. I guess I could actually show that. I'm curious if that's a problem with sync. But obviously our HDMI is working. I don't know if you can read that, but it says 480p. It looks really good. You know, I don't even know how to access the menu. Okay, excellent. I just text Dan. Obviously, it's outputting 480p and my TV only takes 480i. So open up SD, left trigger, right trigger, X, Y. Here it is. Maybe you just gotta hold it. Line doubler. Off. Boom. That was easy. Does that change the HDMI output as well? Yep, 480i. Got it. Thanks. Well, there you have it. That is an install of a GC Dual. And I'm really hoping that Corey likes the custom jewel and the LED. I didn't ask him about it. I was kind of going to pop it onto him as a surprise. Don't have any more of these in stock, and unsure when we'll have more. I think Dan wanted to take a break from it, if I'm being honest. I think he's got the Wii Dual going on right now. And as a matter of fact, I think there is still some GC Dual kits on his store. I think last time I looked there was only like 20 left. So if you want one, you have to go there to get one of his versions. I personally, when I know when I'll have more, I guess I will do what I always do and post on Twitter, and I also kind of repost that tweet onto my website's main page underneath the slideshow. But there is also an email alert sign up on the sale page for the kit, and that is where I really want people to go that are interested in it, that want to buy it from me. That way I can show Dan, they're like, look, hey, I've got, another 50 people or something that really want the kit. And then, because like right now he doesn't want to just order just like another 50, he wants to make a big order, and I don't blame him. It kind of sucks to do like 10 or 20 at a time, and you want to do big batches and be done for a while, and I totally get that. So yeah, looks great. Actually, the install wasn't as bad as I was thinking it was going to be, especially for somebody like me that's never been in the GameCube at all, ever. That was my first time seeing the inside of it, period. I did watch Dan's firmware update video a little bit, so I had some idea how it was coming apart. That might be something that we should probably write up, actually, is how to disassemble it properly and reassemble it, because that's really not on my website anywhere, so I should probably work on that. And I think that's it for this video. I just really wanted to show off doing an install and the custom Dual and Greg's new fan, which the new fan, that's a different story. I will have those available as soon as Greg says he can get some more or get some going, and as soon as we figure out that wire thing, and as soon as I get sale page up. I don't know when I'll have time to do that, but when it goes up, again, I'll tweet about it, and and it probably won't be for sale right away, but you can go in and sign up for the email alert when that's available. It's definitely quieter than the original. Yeah, I'd still want to figure out if we can get a lit LED fan for that size, because it's just another opportunity to jazz it up a little bit, and hopefully at some point I will figure out if I can backlight the jewels. I still have tons of custom jewels, and I think we're getting more options for the artwork that you can get up there. If you want the My Life in Gaming one, let me know. I can get more of those, but I don't really plan on putting it on the sale page. It's kind of weird. It's kind of just a custom thing just for Corey and Try. So, hope you liked the video. Stay tuned for more.